Chapter 1. The moment you realize another guy wants your girl, your body reacts before your mind can even catch up. Your chest gets tight, your stomach drops, your thoughts speed up, and suddenly you're not thinking like a man with options anymore. You're thinking like a man protecting his only option. That's what makes this situation so dangerous, because the competitor usually isn't the main threat. The main threat is what competition does to you. It can turn a calm man into a needy man. It can turn a confident man into a suspicious man. It can turn a leader into an interrogator. And once you become that version of yourself, you start doing the exact things that make a woman feel like she has more power than you. That's when you lose her, sometimes without her even leaving yet. Most men handle competition the same way they handle fear. They either overreact or they pretend it isn't happening. Overreacting looks like chasing, arguing, checking phones, demanding reassurance, trying to lock her down, and getting emotional every time she smiles at her screen. Pretending it isn't happening looks like swallowing disrespect, laughing things off, being overly cool, and letting another man slowly move into your space while you tell yourself you're being secure. Both are losing strategies. Both are reactions. And a man who reacts to competition is already playing the other man's game. The entire goal is to stay in your own frame, not because you're trying to be some robot, but because you need clarity, and clarity can't exist when you're in emotional chaos. Here's the real truth most men don't want to hear. If she is truly your girl, there shouldn't be competition. There can be attention because women get attention. There can be men who try because men try. But competition only becomes real when she entertains it. The other man's interest is not the problem. The question is what she does with that interest. A loyal woman doesn't let another man get close enough to compete. She shuts it down early. She doesn't feed it. She doesn't keep it on life support. She doesn't act like it's harmless while secretly enjoying the attention. If you have actual competition, it's not because a man is bold. It's because she's allowing the door to stay open. That's why this video is going to feel uncomfortable, because it's going to remove the fantasy that love is enough. It's going to remove the fantasy that if you just treat her right, she automatically becomes immune to attention. It's going to remove the fantasy that you can out-text, out-love, or out-compete another man into winning her loyalty. You can't. If her loyalty needs to be competed for, it's already unstable. A man should never have to audition for his own relationship. If you've ever been in a situation where you felt like you were competing for a woman's attention while being the man she claimed to love, like this video because it's going to give you clarity. Subscribe to Love Delusion, because we're not here to raise paranoid men, we're here to raise men with standards. Share this with a friend who's currently losing his mind over a woman, because he doesn't know how to handle competition without embarrassing himself. And comment standards if you're done begging for loyalty and you want to move like a man who respects himself. Now, before we go into what you must do, we have to talk about what you must not do. Because most men destroy their own position the moment they feel threatened. They start performing. They start trying harder. They start thinking love is a contest, and whoever invests more wins. But women don't reward desperation with loyalty. They reward stability with respect. When you start competing, you send a message that you believe you can be replaced. And once you act replaceable, you become replaceable. Competition triggers a man's pride in a weird way. It can make you feel like you need to prove something. It can make you want to flex, post more, show more, spend more, do more, say more. That's ego trying to survive. But the truth is, the best response to competition is not performance. It's posture. Not physical posture only, but internal posture. The posture of a man who isn't afraid to lose a woman who doesn't choose him fully. That posture is rare. That posture changes everything. Because it forces the situation to reveal itself quickly. Either she is loyal and she will move correctly, or she is not loyal and she will expose herself. Either outcome is a win, because a man who values his peace doesn't want to build with confusion. Let's bring this down to real life. because I don't want this to stay in theory. Picture a woman you love. You're not casually dating. You're invested. You've been loyal. You've shown up. And then you notice little things. Her phone is more private. Her energy is a little more distracted. She laughs at messages but doesn't tell you what's funny. She mentions a friend more often. She starts going places you're not included. Or maybe it's more direct. You actually see another man commenting, flirting, trying. And you can feel it. Something is changing. That's the moment most men fold. They either confront emotionally or they try to win harder. And both responses usually make the other man's job easier because they shift her perception of you from solid to shaky. Women don't like shaky masculine energy, not because they're evil, but because it doesn't feel safe. If you crumble when another man enters the picture, what happens when life gets hard? What happens when stress hits? What happens when money gets tight? What happens when conflict shows up? A woman reads your response to competition as a reading of your inner strength, and she might not say it out loud, but she feels it. If you respond with insecurity, you plant a seed in her mind that you can be controlled emotionally. And once a woman feels she can control you, respect begins to drain. When respect drains, loyalty becomes fragile. Now I want to introduce a concept that will keep you calm immediately. There are only 3 realities when another man is competing. Either she is loyal, she is undecided, or she is already gone mentally. That's it. Loyal means she shuts him down and your relationship becomes stronger because she proved herself. Undecided means she likes you but enjoys the attention and keeps the door open. Already gone mentally means she is emotionally detached and the other man is just the next chapter, not the cause. Your job is not to guess. Your job is to create conditions where the truth reveals itself fast without you humiliating yourself. This is where most men start making deals with their dignity. They start thinking, I'll just be patient. I'll just wait. I'll just keep showing her love. And patience is good. But patience with disrespect is cowardice dressed up as maturity. A man who is truly patient is patient with time, not patient with betrayal. A man who is patient with her healing, not patient with her entertaining other men. You have to draw a line in your own mind that you do not cross. Because if you don't, she will keep taking, and you will keep tolerating, and the other man will keep creeping closer until you're in a situation where you're competing for scraps. Imagine a man sitting in his car outside his girl's place, not because he's stalking, but because he suddenly felt something off and he couldn't relax at home. He keeps telling himself he's being crazy, but his instincts are screaming. He remembers little moments from the last 2 weeks, the new password, the sudden girls' night pattern, the way she stopped asking about his day, the way she started dressing up more for quick errands. And then he does the worst thing. He opens her social media and sees the same guy in her comments, not just once, but consistently. He sees her replying, not shutting it down, not ignoring it, but feeding it. Now his hands are shaking. His mind is racing. And in that moment, he decides his next move. One man chooses to blow up. He texts her paragraphs. He demands explanations. He accuses. He threatens to leave. He calls her names. He tries to guilt her into loyalty. He tries to scare her into obedience. That man loses because even if she stays with less respect. Another man chooses to act like nothing happened. He jokes about it. He laughs it off. He tells himself he's secure. He keeps tolerating. That man also loses because he quietly teaches her that his standards are negotiable. The third man gets quiet, not passive, but calm. He decides he won't compete. He decides he won't chase. He decides he won't argue. He decides he will create clarity. And that man wins because he takes his power back. What does creating clarity look like? It starts with controlling your emotions before you confront anything, because confronting from emotion turns you into a clown. It turns you into a man trying to win a conversation. It turns you into a man seeking reassurance, and reassurance is a drug. The more you take, the more you need. If you need reassurance from a woman to feel confident, you are already losing, because now she's in charge of your emotional stability. A man must be emotionally stable first, then he can set standards. So the first move is internal. You remind yourself of a simple principle. You cannot keep a woman by force. You can only keep a woman by choice. If she chooses you, you win. If she doesn't, you walk. That's it. And when you truly accept that, your fear starts to dissolve, because fear comes from clinging. Fear comes from the belief that losing her would destroy you. But if you believe you can walk away and still be okay, you become dangerous in the best way. You become a man who cannot be manipulated with attention. This also changes how you see the other man, because a lot of men turn the competitor into a monster. They start imagining him as some alpha stealing their girl. But the competitor is rarely the enemy. The competitor is a mirror. He reveals what your woman allows. If she is loyal, he is irrelevant. If she is disloyal, he is simply the opportunity that exposed her. That's why fighting him, stalking him, threatening him, or trying to outdo him is a waste of masculine energy. Your focus should be your woman's behavior and your standards, not the other man's existence. If you are competing for her attention, you are already in a bad situation. If you are checking her phone, you are already in a bad situation. If you are losing sleep, you are already in a bad situation. And if you feel like you have to prove your value to keep her, you are already in a bad situation. A relationship should not feel like a battlefield where you're defending your position every week. Love should feel chosen, not negotiated. So what you must do is become the man who doesn't negotiate for loyalty. You set the standard and you let reality respond. That's the masculine way. And once you do that, you'll be shocked how quickly the truth appears. Because women who are loyal respect standards. Women who are disloyal fight standards. They call them insecurity. They call them control. They call them toxic. They try to shame you out of your boundaries. And that response is information. That response tells you what you need to know. In the next chapter, we're going to get into how to handle the conversation itself. What to say without sounding weak. What to avoid saying so you don't hand her power. How to read whether she's loyal or entertaining. How to set a boundary without arguing. And how to exit without begging if she won't respect it. If you're getting value, like the video because it helps men stop humiliating themselves in relationships. Subscribe because Love Delusion is going to keep telling the truth. Share this with a man who thinks competing is romantic. And comment clarity if you're ready to stop guessing and start moving like a man with standards. Chapter 2. The moment competition shows up, the first thing a man wants to do is talk. Not calmly, not wisely. He wants to talk to relieve anxiety. He wants to talk so he can feel in control again. He wants to ask questions. He wants to hear reassurance. He wants to hear her say, he doesn't matter. He wants to hear her say, you're the only one. He wants to hear her say, you have nothing to worry about. And the problem is, even if she says those things, it doesn't fix the real issue. Because the real issue isn't what she says, it's what she's allowing. And if she's allowing competition, her words don't matter as much as her behavior. This is where most men get trapped. They think the goal is to win the conversation. They think if they just express themselves perfectly, she'll understand. They think if they just explain how they feel, she'll respect it. But the truth is, you don't earn respect by explaining feelings. You earn respect by enforcing standards. Explaining without enforcing is begging. Explaining without consequence is weakness, and women can sense the difference instantly. A man who communicates with authority sounds calm. A man who communicates with fear sounds emotional. A man who communicates with authority doesn't need her to agree. A man who communicates with fear needs her to validate him. So if another man is competing for your girl, the first thing you must do is stop talking from panic. You stop interrogating. You stop assuming. You stop accusing. You stop trying to catch her. You stop checking for clues like you're a detective, because the more frantic you become, the more power you hand her, and the easier you make it for the other man. Your calm is your weapon. Your calm is your masculinity. Your calm is what keeps you from embarrassing yourself. Now let's talk about how to approach the conversation like a man. When you address it, your goal is not to fight. Your goal is not to argue. Your goal is not to beg her to choose you. Your goal is to set a standard. And the standard is simple. You are not in a relationship where another man gets access to her. You are not in a relationship where she entertains other men. You are not in a relationship where you have to compete. That is not love. That is not respect. That is not loyalty. That is chaos. So the conversation should sound like clarity, not desperation. It should sound like a statement, not a question. Men mess up by asking, "Do you like him? Are you talking to him? What's going on?" Those questions put her in control, because now she can lie, deny, twist, and make you look insecure. Instead, a man leads the conversation with what he sees and what he tolerates. He speaks from observation and standards. It might sound like, "I've noticed you've been entertaining another guy's attention. I'm not doing competition. If you want to be with me, I need loyalty and clear boundaries. If not, we can end this now." That tone changes everything, because now she's not responding to fear. She's responding to a man who can walk away, and the ability to walk away is the only thing that gives standards power. A lot of men are afraid to say something like that because they think it's harsh. They think it will push her away. But here's what you need to understand. If a boundary pushes her away, she was never yours. That's the truth. A loyal woman respects a boundary. A disloyal woman resents it. And the moment she resents it, you have your answer. Because a woman who loves you and respects you doesn't want you suffering. She doesn't want you anxious. She doesn't want you competing. If she genuinely values you, she will protect your peace, not threaten it. Picture a man at dinner with his girl. She's smiling at her phone, slightly hiding it, not completely, but just enough to feel secretive. The man notices. He doesn't overreact. He doesn't immediately accuse her. He observes for a while. He watches her energy. He watches her body language. He watches how often she checks it. And what's happening inside him is important. His emotions are rising, but he doesn't let them control his mouth. He stays calm. He finishes the moment. Then later, in a calm space, he addresses it. He doesn't say, "Who is that?" with anger. He doesn't demand the phone. He doesn't threaten. He doesn't cry. He simply says, "I've noticed you've been acting a little too entertained by outside attention. I'm not doing that." Then he pauses. That pause is important because it forces her to speak from her character, not from the pressure of his emotion. A woman who is loyal will feel the truth behind his calm. She will correct it immediately. A woman who is disloyal will try to flip it. She'll say, "You're insecure." She'll say, "You're controlling." She'll say, "You're overthinking." And that response is the reveal. You have to understand that women who are entertaining options rarely confess directly. They defend their behavior. They try to make you feel guilty for noticing. They try to make you feel ashamed for having standards. They use psychological manipulation because it keeps them safe. If they can make you feel wrong for being suspicious, they can keep enjoying attention without consequence. That's why a man must remain grounded and not let words twist him. Because when a woman says you're insecure, she is not automatically right. Sometimes she's right, but sometimes she's just offended that she got caught emotionally. So how do you know the difference? You look at behavior. A loyal woman will want to fix the discomfort. A disloyal woman will want to win the argument. A loyal woman will say, "I understand. You're right. I'll handle it." A disloyal woman will say, "You always think something is going on." A loyal woman will reassure through action, not just words. A disloyal woman will reassure through words while keeping the behavior. If you bring up the issue and she gets defensive, that's a red flag. If she makes you feel guilty for asking, that's a red flag. If she starts calling you names, that's a red flag. If she refuses to create boundaries with other men, that's a red flag. If she refuses to respect your discomfort, that's a red flag. A relationship is supposed to protect you from uncertainty, not create more uncertainty. If you're the man and you feel like you're always guessing, you're not leading a relationship. You're surviving a situation. You need to be willing to lose her. Most men are not. Most men will talk tough on the internet, but when the woman they love starts acting funny, they fold. They accept disrespect because they don't want to be alone. They accept confusion because they don't want to start over. They accept competition because they don't want to lose the fantasy. But a man who respects himself understands something. It is better to be alone than to be disrespected. It is better to be alone than to be in a relationship that drains your dignity. It is better to walk away early than to stay and slowly become a shell of yourself. So the real must-do when another guy wants your girl is this. You must not compete. You must not chase. You must not beg. You must create clarity. And if she can't respect clarity, you must be willing to exit. And this is the part women rarely say out loud, but they feel. Women test men. Not always intentionally, but often unconsciously. When competition shows up, she watches what you do. She watches if you become weak. She watches if you become jealous. She watches if you become controlling. She watches if you collapse. And if you hold your composure and your standards, she respects you more. Even if she's tempted, she respects you more. Because your standards remind her that she could lose you. And a woman who values you will never risk losing you for random attention. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about what competition really reveals. It reveals her character. It reveals your value. It reveals your frame. It reveals whether she's a woman you should keep. We're going to talk about how to handle the competitor without direct confrontation and why the smartest man never fights the other man. He simply removes himself from disrespect and lets reality punish disloyalty. That chapter is going to shift your entire mindset. If you're getting value, like the video because it helps men protect their dignity. Subscribe to Love Delusion because we raise men with standards. Share this with a man who thinks fighting for a woman is love. And comment, "No competition," if you're done tolerating disrespect in the name of love. Chapter 3. A lot of men think competition is about the other guy. They picture him as the villain. They imagine him laughing. They imagine him trying to steal your girl, like it's some movie where men fight over a woman like she's a trophy. And that mindset destroys you. Because the more you focus on him, the more you ignore the real truth. Competition is not about him. Competition is a test of your woman's character and your own standards. That's the only reason it feels so personal. Because it hits your pride. It makes you feel like you're being evaluated. It makes you feel like your value is on trial. But here's what you must understand if you want to win this situation without losing your dignity. If a woman is loyal, competition does not exist. A loyal woman makes competition impossible. She doesn't let men get close enough to compete. She doesn't entertain. She doesn't respond. She doesn't flirt back. She doesn't keep doors open. So if you feel competition, it means there's a door open somewhere. And that door is not held open by the competitor. It's held open by her. That realization hurts because men want to believe love means protection. Men want to believe being her man means you have a guaranteed position. But women are not loyal to titles. Women are loyal to what they respect. Women are loyal to what they value. Women are loyal to what they fear losing. That's why your posture matters more than your emotions. A man who collapses in competition teaches her she can do whatever she wants and still keep him. A man who stays grounded teaches her something else. He teaches her that his presence is earned, not granted, and that flips the power back to where it belongs. Now let's talk about the competitor himself. The biggest mistake you can make is confronting him. DMs, threats, "Bro, leave my girl alone," pulling up, trying to fight. That is low-value behavior. It makes you look weak and reactive. It makes you look like you're losing. It makes you look like you don't trust your woman. It also tells her you're emotional, and emotional men become easy to control. The competitor wants you emotional. He wants you angry. He wants you to do something stupid because it makes you look unstable, and instability makes him look calmer by comparison. A man who is trying to take your girl doesn't need to be better than you. He just needs you to embarrass yourself. The smartest response is silence toward him. Not because you're scared, but because you understand the rules of masculinity. You don't fight men for women. You don't compete for women. You don't plead for women. You don't chase women. You lead. You choose. And if she cannot be chosen properly, you remove yourself. That alone is the ultimate flex. Because the competitor is trying to steal your girl, but your girl isn't an object. She's a choice maker. If she chooses to entertain him, she disqualifies herself. You don't fight for disqualified women. You replace them. This is the part most men don't understand because they've been trained by romance movies. Movies make it seem like fighting for her is love, like competing is proof you care, like jealousy is passion. But that's fantasy. In real life, competing for a woman makes her respect you less because it shows you don't value yourself enough to walk away. A woman might enjoy watching men compete because it inflates her ego, but she will not respect the man who sacrifices his dignity to stay in her orbit. Even if she chooses him in the end, she'll always know he was willing to tolerate disrespect to keep her. And that memory destroys the relationship later. So what does a wise man do when another man wants his woman? He watches her. Not like a detective, not like a controlling boyfriend, but like a man evaluating character. He observes how she handles temptation. He observes whether she shuts it down. He observes whether she feeds it. He observes whether she respects the relationship. And then he makes a decision based on reality, not feelings. Let me show you what I mean with a third-person scene that feels painfully real. A woman is at a party with her boyfriend. A man approaches her while the boyfriend is nearby. The competitor is bold. He flirts. He tries to impress. He tries to test boundaries. The boyfriend watches from a distance, not with fear, but with calm. The woman has two choices. She can shut it down respectfully, or she can entertain it. If she shuts it down, the boyfriend's respect for her rises. If she entertains, the boyfriend learns the truth. The competitor doesn't matter. The woman's response is everything. Now, here's the twist. Some women don't entertain directly, but they also don't shut it down. They smile too long. They keep the conversation going. They laugh a little too hard. They accept compliments. They enjoy the attention. They don't necessarily cheat, but they're leaving the door cracked, and a cracked door is still a door. That's the gray zone where men lose themselves, because they can feel something is off, but they can't call it cheating yet. They can feel disrespect, but they don't want to seem insecure. So they sit in confusion. They keep tolerating. They keep hoping she'll choose correctly. And while they hope, the competitor keeps creeping. That's why boundaries must be clear, not harsh. Clear. A man doesn't need to accuse. He doesn't need to explode. He just needs to make his standards known and then watch what she does. And if she doesn't respect it, he exits. The exit is the most powerful thing a man can do, because the exit is what separates standards from words. Imagine you're in a relationship and you feel competition. You feel that another man is getting attention. You feel her energy shifting. You feel her enjoying it. And you have a choice. You can chase her, compete, try harder, and become anxious. Or you can choose yourself. You can say, I'm not doing this. You can say, I don't compete. You can say, if she wants to entertain that, she can have it. That mindset frees you. Because once you choose yourself, you stop being emotionally held hostage. Now, here's something deeper. A woman's loyalty is not proven when she's alone. It's proven when she has options. Loyalty only matters when temptation exists. That's why men need to stop thinking loyalty is a vibe and start thinking loyalty is discipline. A woman who is disciplined will act right even when you're not around. A woman who is not disciplined will be loyal only when it's convenient. And convenient loyalty is not loyalty. It's opportunity waiting. This is why men must be careful with women who love attention. Women who collect male validation like trophies are high risk. Women who constantly need to prove they still got it are high risk. Women who are always posting thirst traps and calling it self-love are high risk. Because those women are always one DM away from temptation. And if your relationship depends on her resisting temptation every day, your relationship is fragile. Relationships should not require constant temptation management. They should require respect. Now, I want to address the competitor one more time because I know some men feel rage. They feel like the other man is disrespecting them. They want to confront him as a man, and I understand that masculine instinct. But here's the reality. If a man can easily get access to your woman, the disrespect isn't coming from him. It's coming from her lack of boundaries. A man will always try. Men are hunters by nature. Men test. Men push. That's what men do. It's a woman's job to protect her relationship. It's your job to protect your standards. Fighting the competitor is fighting the wrong battle. A man with standards doesn't fight competitors. He lets them reveal the woman. If she handles it correctly, she proves loyalty. If she doesn't, she disqualifies herself. That is how a man stays calm. That is how a man stays powerful. Because he doesn't need to win a tug of war over a woman's attention. He only needs to see whether she respects him enough to protect the relationship. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about what to do when she actually is entertaining the other guy. Not guessing, not suspecting. When you know, when you feel it, when it's obvious. We're going to talk about how to handle it without begging, how to set boundaries without sounding insecure, how to leave without drama, and how to maintain your value in her eyes even if you walk away. Because walking away is not losing. Walking away is often winning. If this chapter is hitting, like the video, because men need to stop fighting for women who don't respect them. Subscribe to Love Delusion, because we're raising men with clarity. Share it with a friend who's ready to fight a man instead of evaluating his woman. And comment, she decides if you finally understand that the other man is not the issue. Her choices are. Chapter 4. The hardest moment in this entire situation is not when you first notice the competitor. The hardest moment is when you realize she's actually entertaining him, not necessarily cheating yet, not necessarily sleeping with him, but entertaining, responding, smiling, keeping the door open, protecting the attention more than she protects your peace. That's the moment where your heart and your pride start arguing inside you. Your heart wants to fight for her. Your pride wants to walk away. Your fear wants to cling. Your ego wants revenge. And if you don't have control over yourself, you will choose the most emotional option instead of the most masculine option. This is where men embarrass themselves. They do things they later regret. They beg, they argue, they cry, they stalk, they threaten, they send long paragraphs, they start overgiving. They start trying to outlove another man. They start doing romantic desperation like it's going to magically restore respect. But it doesn't. It does the opposite. It tells her that she can explore options and still keep you as a backup. It tells her that your love has no boundaries. It tells her that your standards are negotiable. And once she learns that, she will never truly respect you again. So if she is entertaining another man, the question becomes simple. Do you want to be respected, or do you want to be tolerated? Because tolerated love is not love. It's emotional slavery. It's you staying in a situation where you are constantly proving yourself to someone who should already value you. It's you living in anxiety because you're scared to lose her. And a man who lives like that will never have peace. Even if she stays, you'll always feel like you're one mistake away from losing her. That is not love. That is torture. The most important thing to understand is this: a woman who is entertaining another man is already disrespecting you. Even if she hasn't cheated physically, she has already crossed a boundary. Because loyalty begins in the mind. Loyalty begins in intention. Loyalty begins in her refusing to let another man into her emotional space. So don't wait until it becomes physical to call it what it is. The moment she entertains, the relationship is already threatened. Now, let's talk about what you actually do. The move is not drama. The move is calm consequence. Calm consequence is the language of masculine leadership. Most men don't have it. Most men think consequences must be loud. They think consequences must be angry. They think consequences must be threats. But real consequences are quiet. Real consequences are simple. Real consequences are action, not emotion. So when you address it, you do not ask for reassurance. You do not ask for explanations. You do not debate with her. You do not argue about her intentions. You simply state what you will not tolerate, and then you act accordingly. It might sound like this: I can see you've been entertaining another man. I'm not going to compete for you. If you want to be with me, you need to close that door completely. If you want to explore options, that's fine, but you won't be doing it while you still have access to me. That is a boundary. That is masculine. That is not insecurity. That is self-respect. And the key is, you have to mean it. If you say it and then fold, you lose permanently. Women don't respect words without action. Women respect consistency. If your boundary has no backbone, it's not a boundary. It's just a request. Picture a man waking up at 3 in the morning. He didn't wake up because of a noise. He woke up because his instincts wouldn't let him sleep. He rolls over and sees his girl facing away, phone light glowing in the dark. He doesn't need to ask who she's talking to. He can feel it. That quiet gut punch hits him, the kind of pain that makes you feel cold inside. He wants to react. He wants to grab the phone. He wants to explode. But he doesn't. He just watches, not to torture himself, but to confirm reality. And when he confirms it, he knows the relationship has entered a new phase, not because the other man is winning, but because his woman is choosing to disrespect him. Now, the old version of that man would try to save it by chasing. He would try to love harder. He would try to be sweeter. He would start doing everything he wasn't doing. But the upgraded version understands something. A woman doesn't cheat because you didn't send enough good morning texts. A woman cheats because she lacks loyalty and respect. And no amount of romance fixes disrespect. Romance without respect becomes humiliation. So the upgraded version of the man sits with the pain. He doesn't run from it. He uses it. He lets it sharpen him. And when the morning comes, he doesn't argue. He doesn't cry. He doesn't beg. He speaks like a man who is already okay with leaving. He says, I'm not doing this. If you want to talk to other men, go do that, but you won't have me while you do it. And then he creates distance. Distance is powerful because distance forces reality to show itself. When you create distance, a loyal woman will panic and correct herself. She will fear losing you and she will choose you. But a disloyal woman will act relieved. She will act like she's free. She will act like you're dramatic. And that response tells you everything. Distance reveals character. A lot of men are terrified of distance because they think distance means they lose her. But sometimes losing her is the win. Because if she is not loyal, keeping her is not a victory. Keeping her is a slow death. Keeping her is you staying in disrespect. The goal is not to keep a woman at any cost. The goal is to keep your dignity while you build with a woman who deserves it. When she is entertaining another man, you must not over-explain. Over-explaining is begging. Over-explaining is trying to convince her. Over-explaining is trying to make her understand your pain so she feels guilty. But guilt doesn't create loyalty. Guilt creates temporary behavior. A woman might act right for a week because she feels guilty, then go back to disloyal behavior once she feels safe again. The only thing that creates loyalty is respect and character. And character is not something you can teach. You can only select it. So keep it simple. Your boundaries should be clear, your action should be consistent, and your tone should be calm. When a woman is entertaining attention, she often tells herself she deserves it. She tells herself it's harmless. She tells herself she's not cheating. She tells herself she's just having fun. But deep down, she's also watching you. She's watching whether you notice. She's watching whether you tolerate it. She's watching whether you still treat her like she's your only option. And if you do, she loses respect because she realizes she can disrespect you without consequence. That's why your standards matter. A woman is not attracted to a man she can easily manipulate. She might stay with him because he's safe. She might stay because he provides. She might stay because he's predictable. But she will not respect him deeply. And without deep respect, loyalty becomes shaky. This is why a man must be willing to leave, not to threaten, not to play games, but because leaving is the only real boundary. Now the competitor's not always trying to take your girl. Sometimes he just wants her attention. Sometimes he just wants sex. Sometimes he just wants ego. But if she is entertaining him, she is participating. She is feeding him. And that means she is not fully yours. The moment you accept partial loyalty, you teach her that your masculinity is negotiable. And once masculinity becomes negotiable, she will test more. So what do you do if she says, he's just a friend? You don't argue about the label. You look at behavior. If the friend is flirting, if the friend is texting late, if the friend is sending compliments, if the friend clearly wants her, then your woman is disrespecting you by keeping him around. The label doesn't matter. Intent matters. And the moment you argue about labels, you lose. Because now she can hide behind semantics. You stay firm on the principle, not the detail. The principle is simple. No male friends who want you, no entertainment, no gray zone. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about what happens when you choose the masculine path. What happens when you refuse to compete? What happens when you walk away? What happens to her psychology when she realizes you're not desperate? And what happens to you when you finally understand your power? Because a man who can walk away from disrespect is a man who becomes dangerous in the best way. He becomes free. And freedom is what makes women truly respect you. If this chapter is helping, like the video because it gives men their dignity back. Subscribe to Love Delusion because we speak truth, not fantasy. Share this with a man who thinks begging is love. And comment calm consequence if you're ready to stop reacting emotionally and start leading your life. Chapter 5. When you finally choose the masculine path in a situation like this, it feels like you're walking into fire. Not because you don't know what to do, you know exactly what to do. It feels like fire because you know what it might cost you. It might cost you the relationship, it might cost you the woman you love, it might cost you the future you pictured, it might cost you the comfort of not starting over. And that's why most men don't do it. They don't lack knowledge, they lack courage. They would rather live in quiet disrespect than face temporary loneliness. They would rather tolerate competition than risk losing her. And the reason is simple. They're emotionally attached to the fantasy of her more than they are committed to protecting their dignity. But the moment you stop competing, you stop begging, you stop chasing, and you finally stand on your standards, something strange happens. You become calm again, your mind clears, your stomach stops turning, your sleep starts returning, you start feeling like yourself. You start remembering who you were before the anxiety, and even if you still love her, you stop being controlled by the fear of losing her. That's what men don't realize. The competitor isn't stealing your woman. Your fear is stealing your masculinity. Your fear is stealing your peace. Your fear is stealing your leadership. So the real win is not keeping her. The real win is getting yourself back. This is the part women don't expect. A woman who entertains other men often expects you to react like most men. She expects anger, she expects pleading, she expects jealousy, she expects to be chased, she expects emotional paragraphs, she expects you to fight for her attention. Because that's what the average man does. The average man competes like his life depends on it. And when a woman sees that, she feels powerful. Not always in an evil way, but in a psychological way. She feels like the prize. She feels like she has leverage. She feels like she can explore and still have you waiting. That's why some women don't shut competition down. They enjoy the leverage. But when you refuse to compete, her psychology shifts. Because you remove leverage, you remove the safety net, you remove the guarantee that you will always be there. And that forces her to face herself. It forces her to realize she might actually lose you. And women rarely respect a man they can't lose. They might love him. They might benefit from him. They might enjoy him. But respect comes from the reality that your presence is not guaranteed. That's why standards matter. When you stand on your standards, you force her to decide. You stop allowing her to live in the gray zone. You stop allowing her to be half loyal and half curious. You stop allowing her to keep you while sampling attention. You force a clean decision. And clean decisions are powerful because they reveal the truth. If she truly values you, she will correct her behavior, not with words only, but with action. She will close doors. She will reduce male access. She will stop entertaining. She will act like a woman who fears losing you. And if she doesn't, she will act like a woman who never truly chose you. And that's painful, but it's also liberating. Because nothing is worse than living in uncertainty. Uncertainty is what breaks men. The second thing that happens is the competitor loses power immediately. Because the competitor's power comes from her confusion and your reaction. If she is entertained and you are anxious, he becomes a threat. If she is shut down and you are calm, he becomes irrelevant. The competitor does not want a strong man. He wants a shaky man. He wants a man who begs. He wants a man who acts possessive. Because the moment you act possessive, you look insecure. And insecurity makes the competitor look calmer. That's why your calm kills the other man's advantage. And the third thing that happens is you regain the strongest advantage a man can have in any relationship. Scarcity. Not manufactured scarcity where you play games, real scarcity. The scarcity that comes from self-respect. When a woman knows she can lose you, she either rises or she leaves. Either way, you win because you don't stay in disrespect. What if you walk away and she chooses him? That's the thought that makes men fold. That's the nightmare. That's the ego death. The idea that you set standards and she still leaves. The idea that you held your frame and she still chose another man. The idea that you stayed masculine and still lost her. That fear makes men compromise themselves. It makes men tolerate disrespect. It makes men keep competing. But here's what you must understand. If she chooses him because you set a standard, then she was never yours. She was only yours when she could disrespect you. She was only yours when you tolerated it. She was only yours when you made it easy. And a woman like that is not a prize. She's a liability. Losing her is not a loss. Losing her is protection. Some men hear that and they don't believe it because they are emotionally attached. They don't want to accept that the woman they love might not be good for them. But love does not mean suitability. Love does not mean she deserves you. Love does not mean she has character. Love just means you're attached. And attachments can be wrong. Attachments can be to people who harm you. Attachments can be to people who are not loyal. Attachments can be to people who only love what you provide, not who you are. So if you walk away and she chooses him, you didn't lose. You escaped. And one day, you will thank yourself. Imagine you're sitting alone after deciding you won't compete anymore. The house is quiet. Your phone isn't buzzing. Your mind is calmer, but your heart is still heavy. You miss her. You miss the routine. You miss the good moments. But then you remember the disrespect. You remember the anxiety. You remember feeling like you were in a silent war for her attention. And then you realize the relationship wasn't love anymore. It was attachment mixed with fear. And that realization starts to heal you. Because once you see that, you stop romanticizing the pain. Then you start rebuilding yourself. You start training. You start focusing on work. You start becoming sharper. You start becoming more grounded. You start becoming the man you were supposed to be. And slowly, you realize the competitor wasn't the biggest threat. The biggest threat was you abandoning yourself to keep a woman. That's the lesson. Never abandon yourself to keep a woman. Now let's address what you must do if she tries to come back after you walk away. This is common. Many women don't respect a man until they lose access. Many women don't fear losing you until you actually leave. So when you leave and you become distant, she may come back with softness. She may come back with apologies. She may come back with passion. She may come back with promises. And this is where men get weak again. Because they miss her. They want the fantasy back. They want to believe she changed. So what do? You don't let emotions decide. You let standards decide. You evaluate her actions, not her tears. A lot of women cry to regain access, not because they genuinely changed. A lot of women apologize because they miss the benefits, not because they respect you. So you look for proof. Real proof. Behavioral change. Accountability. Ownership. And even then, you decide if you want to risk your peace again. Because here's the cold truth. Once a woman has entertained competition while being with you, the relationship is forever stained. Even if you forgive her, your mind will remember. Even if she behaves for a while, your nervous system will never fully relax. That's why many older men prefer peace over love. They'd rather be alone than be anxious. They'd rather be alone than compete. They'd rather be alone than deal with modern female attention addiction.
because peace becomes priceless once you've tasted betrayal. And that brings us to the final point. If another man wants your girl, the ultimate question is not how you beat him. The ultimate question is whether she deserves you. Because the other man is not the judge. She is. She is the one deciding what access men get to her. She is the one deciding what boundaries exist. She is the one deciding whether she protects the relationship or plays with it. A man who understands this stops being reactive. He stops being jealous. He stops being insecure. He becomes selective. He becomes calm. He becomes powerful. He becomes a man who can love deeply, but still walk away when disrespected. And that is the kind of man women truly fear losing. If this video gave you clarity, like it because it helps men protect their dignity. Subscribe to Love Delusion because we speak truth from men who want peace. Share it with a man who's currently competing for a woman and losing himself. And comment, I don't compete if you're done begging for loyalty and ready to move like a man with standards.